There we are. Look at us. We were on top of the world and didn't even know it. While we may not have been attending one of the more well-known magical universities, we were luckier than many to have found our way into Schola Obscura. It was a smaller, more focused school, with a curriculum that allowed each one of us to pursue the path of our own choosing. The 5 of us just so happened to be taking many of the same courses and had similar ambitions, which is, of course, how we all ended up bonding so closely in those early years. Our obsession with Lepidoptera Monstrum began when we discovered a series of obscure passages in the now banned book on the inadequacy of contemporary wards, which led us to believe that the blood from this rumored creature could be used as a much-needed ingredient in a complicated potion we were in the process of creating. If all the research we had done over the last year was right, just a drop of its blood would be enough to charge the rest of the ingredients we had painstakingly gathered with the element they were missing. We kept our interest in this creature a secret, but did consult a trusted professor in private who warned us to not pursue the matter any further. He didn't offer anything of substance, but did tell us that he had heard of Lepidoptera Monstrum and that it would be in our own best interests to leave it all alone. We, of course, had no intention of doing that whatsoever. We had dug further and discovered stories of a giant moth in the primeval forests in the Carpathian mountains in Romania. And so we began to prepare for the long trip we'd be taking as soon as spring break began. We also enlisted a few other students, acquaintances we felt we could trust, to come along, because if what we had been reading and hearing was right, we'd need as much help as we could get. And so spring eventually arrived, and we boarded a plane for Romania. We booked a motel after we landed, got some sleep, and then took a train to the location we meant to explore. Before we left, we had been focused on practicing and perfecting various binding spells, and had also brought artifacts and magical items to help us, just in case it came down to having to engage in combat with the creature. When we arrived at our stop, we were met by a guide we had procured ahead of time, who agreed to take us partway in and then depart. Basically, he would point us in the right direction and then wanted nothing more to do with any of it. And this is exactly what happened. He was incredibly nervous most of the time he spent with us, and in hindsight, at the time, I felt as if he was looking at all of us as if we were ghosts. I chalked it up to the fact that he was not a magic user and had no idea the kind of power we brought with us. We discovered it would take at least a day or 2 of trekking to get to what the locals called the older soul of the forest. Luckily for us, we had prepared for this and had brought plenty of supplies as well as sleeping accommodations for a multi-day excursion. During the first night out there, one of the others that had come along with us became extremely agitated as he felt like he wasn't being told everything. He was more of an acquaintance and had mainly been invited to increase our numbers in case things went wrong. That night around the campfire, he made multiple threats and talked about revealing what we were up to upon our return. He'd also somehow found out that we had gotten our hands on magical artifacts that were the property of Schola Obscura and brought them with us. We were going to return these as soon as we got back and didn't really see the harm in it other than, of course, the fact that we took them without permission, but he just would not let it go. He eventually calmed down, and we were all able to get some sleep after that. Waking up in that place the next morning was unbelievable. We all felt ready to tackle the day and move forward with what we came there to accomplish. The forest was deep and massive, and at times we ran into difficulties, but we were determined that nothing was going to get in our way. Difficulties can be more like opportunities when looked at through the right lens, and we were provided plenty of opportunities to put the magic we'd been learning at Schola Obscura to use. It allowed us to become more confident in our abilities and to iron out some of the inconsistencies in our practice that could only be discovered with real-world use. Some of the difficulties we ran into were a little more challenging than others, but we managed and never took our eyes off of the prize, the blood of Lepidoptera Monstrum. The only thing, in the end, that really mattered. We were closing in on the more ancient part of the forest where the creature was rumored to be, and we're all starting to feel something that was hard to put our fingers on. The air felt different here, and it wasn't just elevation changes, it was something else. As we continued on, there was a foreboding sort of feeling beginning to spread amongst us, and so we stayed sharp. Hours passed like that. A quiet had descended upon us, and then suddenly it happened. The creature came down so fast, and none of us had sensed it. None of the magical artifacts we had brought with us in order to detect its presence had alerted us. We were bewildered by it all, and so I cast one of the binding spells I'd been practicing for months, and nothing happened. And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing at all. I was at a loss, confused, and immediately terrified. The others had tried as well. They tried throwing every spell they could conjure up at Lepidoptera Monstrum as it carried Peter away. And then it was gone, and so was Peter, as well as his screams. Gone into the fog that was getting thicker and thicker around us. The magical artifacts we'd brought with us seemed devoid of power or greatly weakened. The potions we drank seemed to have little to no effect on us, and none of our magic was working whatsoever, only tiny little blips here and there. You never know how you're going to act in a distressing situation until you are inside of that situation.
What are we going to do now? We're going to die out here!
All of our plans to bring Lepidoptera Monstrum down in order to collect its blood had involved the use of magic, and suddenly, we apparently had none available to us. We had no backup plan. Never thought we needed one.
What happened to our
We were
magic?
completely
Where is it?
confident that our magic would be enough to bring a giant moth down. And then another one came out of the thick, foggy canopy, descending upon us right where we had gathered. A sacrifice was made, another difficult choice, which gave the remaining 5 of us time to escape, or so we thought. We quickly learned there wasn't just 1 or 2 Lepidoptera Monstrum out here in this ancient forest. There were many. We also realized that something about their presence weakened or dimmed the magic running through our veins. The further we got from them, the more we could feel the magic returning, an unmistakable feeling. Yet as soon as they got near us again, the magic would slip away. It was a complete nightmare come to life, one the majority of us would never wake up from. Somehow, my feet were faster than the rest of the group, or I just got lucky. Either way, I left it all behind. I heard their screams as I escaped, and I assumed none of them made it out alive. The literature had said nothing about magic failing in their presence. But looking back, we had ignored more than one warning not only from our trusted professor, but also from the stories available to us. There were many instances of others similar to us, rumors and stories of those who use magic going into these primeval forests in pursuit of Lepidoptera Monstrum. They were hidden, but we had found them. There were no clear reports of anyone talking about what they ran into in the aftermath, almost as if no one had ever come back. We somehow ignored that silent warning. We convinced ourselves that there just wasn't evidence of those who came back, because why else would so many others continue to attempt to find Lepidoptera Monstrum? We figured they simply never revealed what they discovered, so they could keep it a secret for themselves. I've destroyed every record I could find that would reveal what we were working on, as I now believe it would be much too dangerous in hands even worse than our own. To add to that, we're the ones who did all the hard work for it. Maybe I don't really care whose hands it ends up in, but it wouldn't be ours, so to hell with them. If you're in possession of this tape, then you know as much as I'm willing to say about all of this. Be thankful I left any kind of warning at all. It's more than anyone else has done. It also means my paranoia has been very real, that I have been followed, and that whoever or whatever shadowy group has been tracking me has decided to act and end my life or silence me in some other horrible way. I probably deserve it, to be fair. I've managed to outlive the rest of our little group as far as I know, and in all honesty, am probably the one who should have died first.